In a quieter week tucked into Sydney's western suburbs, this episode reflects on identity, home, and creative stamina before tracing how Chris Hemsworth moved from Australia television to global stardom. Expanding the cinematic road George Miller built and forging his own path into creative ownership. Welcome to Beyond the Template. Welcome back to Beyond the Template, everyone. This podcast was created to offer up inspiration for those with big ideas, but who need a hand with how to keep going once the initial excitement wears off. You'll hear about my own adventures, successes, and failures as I try to live a creatively expressive life alongside you. I will tell you the story of someone you may or may not be familiar with who built themselves up through self-determination, partnership, and collaboration. And finally, this is the More Than Just Talk podcast. To give you all a little fuel to each of your flames, I offer a reflection question at the end to consider for the following week. I believe you also have outstanding skills, abilities, and talents to be successful, even if it doesn't feel that way. I'm an expert on neurodiverse thinkers, specifically those with ADD, ADHD, and those on the autism spectrum. These are my favorite people. I think they're the ones who can make the world a better place. My business, Âme Collaborative, offers emotionally intelligent partnership to diverse thinkers, creatives, innovators, and artists feeling the pressure of completion and delivery. My job is to remain by their side and work with them, not against them, to accomplish something that feels too overwhelming alone, while upholding the soul of their work. If this sounds like you and you have an idea you're excited about but need help with making a reality, reach out. My contact is in the description for you. So what is up, my makers and shakers? First off, I'm late with this podcast, which right now in Australia feels very on brand. Sometimes we don't hit the deadline, and that's okay. The truth behind success is adaptation and grace. Just keep swimming, right? Last week, we explored the life of George Miller, the doctor who turned filmmaker who built the Mad Max franchise from almost nothing, and in doing so, helped establish the infrastructure of modern Australian cinema. This week for me feels different. I am in my 4th week in Sydney, hunkered down in the western suburbs where grocery shopping is easy and the cats are snuggly, and life has been both quieter but also more stressful. I don't know if it was the lunar eclipse or being so far away from the city, but I have not had nearly enough stimulation or the energy to find some. And yet I have been dating. I have been overwhelmed with house sitting needs, and going into the city has been a whole epic adventure because I'm so far away from everything. So this week I've been both stuck in isolation somehow and also forced through whirlwinds, which has inadvertently forced something internal in me. Influencers would have us all think that living abroad or even long-term travel will magically change your life, your success, and your personality. But I've been noticing that there's no magical transformation. Fun fact, I've been following astrocartography lines on this trip and have been documenting my experiences while traveling. I think it's been both a chicken and an egg result, but no matter where I've gone, my core has not changed. I'm still leaning into old habits and seeking out old comforts. I still have my same worries and fears, and I'm still just as awesome as I was before. But what this experience has done is reveal who I am to myself more clearly. Something else I've kept in mind from those astro lines to the eclipse was also, hey, it's been retrograde Mercury. The best thing that I've learned about these periods is to expect backtracking and to actually pursue backtracking to harness the energy fully. Don't be a victim, take the reins. So me rethinking things and redesigning my website and reviewing what I'm most passionate about with my client work and offerings and reevaluating what I'm looking for in a partner and a home, I've actually enjoyed what I now call the times of re. The website is coming together bit by bit. I will tell you all when this reiteration is complete. But yes, this is the 3rd time I have rewritten this podcast and why it's a day late coming to you. Reassessing my approach to client work and who I want to show up as in the world of business had me also thinking about what it has meant to step outside of a societal system. Now that I've been trying to figure out what entrepreneurship means for the past year and a half, I'm seeing just how easy it is to fall into systems and remain. It's actually the easier thing to get a job and just try to keep it. On the other hand, with trying to do something new, expansive, innovative, creative, etc., it's mentally exhausting to constantly rely on executive functioning in unfamiliar environments. Does this resonate with you? Have you ever felt stunned into going back into old environments because your brain was too overloaded? You aren't alone. Here's what's been happening for me. Each day is a brand new bumble with client work because working with a growing corporation means there is nothing established for the long term. Everything means adaptation and saying, yes, I can do that, even when you have no idea how to do it in the first place. This has meant learning several new software systems on top of continuing my own learning with tech in my business. This brings on a feeling of failure because I don't feel like I've mastered anything at this point. And it's been a year and a half. But I'm also hearing from others that everything is changing in a big way right now. And I could take a class on something, but it sounds like if I do, whatever I learn will be outdated by the end of the year or even by next month. And now that I'm traveling, it's tipped me into a brand new mental flex. I don't have 95% of the things I own to help make my life easier. I don't know where anything is in the places I'm staying or how to use the technology and appliances I have access to week. From the televisions to the air conditioners to the microwaves to the ovens to just understanding how to open the windows and doors. I don't have control over the cleanliness and maintenance of the homes I'm in. So often there are unpleasant surprises like sticky and dirty things or bugs in very unwanted places. I also don't know how to navigate transportation each time I arrive at a new spot. I don't know where anything is in any given grocery store because each one has been laid out differently. I don't know the good websites to go to in figuring out what's happening around me or where might be safe for me to go alone. And I can't even anticipate the weather. I've gotten overheated twice and almost again yesterday just walking around. And yesterday was cloudy. I also don't even know what something might cost, so it's very hard to budget. So there is no autopilot at all. It's all brand new every single day, and I think this is why little children and older people need naps. All of this to say, I am tired, but I'm learning what I'm capable of and also what I want to seek in my business, my social life, and a home when I return to the stage, which is next month. I've also been gaining a deeper understanding of what it might feel like to function with neurodiversity in the world every day. I have years working with and listening to these, my all-time favorite humans. But as a learning expert, I know that experiential immersion is the absolute best way to understand and problem solve. I was tested in 2024 because I was experiencing adjacent symptoms, but it turns out my symptoms are actually triggered. They aren't consistent. So this trip was layered in its design. I'm going to come back to the States ready to blaze forward with so much empathy and new perspective. And I'm really excited to help. And I'm also going to be adding something else to my toolbox, which I will tell you all more about next week. For now, let's turn towards someone whose career embodies both migration and reinvention without losing their core identity. Chris Hemsworth literally linked up with George Miller when he entered the Mad Max universe through Furiosa, expanding a world Miller first imagined in the 1970s. But the more interesting connection is structural. George Miller built the road which Chris Hemsworth walked on decades later in building his own career and his own way. Miller proved Australian talent could travel outward and shape global cinema. Hemsworth represents a later generation that did exactly that, exporting Australian presence into Hollywood franchises while gradually reclaiming creative control. Chris's journey also loops us back to Taika Waititi from episode 17, connecting Australian and New Zealand creative ecosystems in a way that mirrors the regional network you have been watching unfold all season. Chris Hemsworth was born in 1983 in Melbourne, Australia. His mother was an English teacher. His father worked in social services as a child protection counselor. So, as you can see, this was not an entertainment industry family. It was a stable, grounded, and service-oriented one. When Chris was young, the family moved frequently between Melbourne and the Northern Territory, spending significant time in the remote outback community of Bulman. Eventually, they settled on Phillip Island in Victoria. That early oscillation between city and wilderness shaped Chris and his brothers. Being in the outback requires resilience from someone, and isolation from cities builds self-reliance. Alternately, Phillip Island offered Chris and his family the coastline, surfing culture, and a tight-knit community. He has often described his childhood as being driven outdoors. When being physically active is the norm, acting wouldn't be an early-on obsession. Instead, Chris was more interested in having adventure. Financially, the family was comfortable, but certainly not affluent. Just as with George Miller, there were no industry connections for Chris or his brothers to lean on or ask favors of. His older brother, Luke Hemsworth, did set forth into acting ahead of Chris and encouraged him to do the same, but neither were given a handout or leg up by relatives in film or television. So Chris's path to success was not linear or through easy proximity. He had to build himself up incrementally. During high school, Chris Hemsworth participated in some drama classes, but was just as, if not more so, invested in sports. Andy would pursue the dramatic arts when attending Heathmont College in Melbourne and later New Haven College on Phillip Island. Simultaneously, in an attempt to balance his studies and his career, he began auditioning for roles on Australian television. His entry point would be one like many actors in Australia, through serialized television. At the age of 21 in 2004, he landed a role on the long-running soap opera Home and Away, playing Kim Hyde. The show historically functioned as a training ground for Australian actors as it offered visibility, consistent work, and industry exposure. But it didn't guarantee international transition for them, and Chris was no exception. During his time on Home and Away, Chris Hemsworth was earning a steady income, but the work was not creatively expansive. In past interviews, he has spoken openly about feeling typecast and uncertain whether he could break beyond the Australian television mold. Chris deeply felt the barrier of scaling upwards. He saw how Australia's industry was too small for him and the value he had to bring to the industry as a whole. He knew that if he wanted to reach global audiences, relocation would be required of him. In 2007, still in his early 20s, and after several years on the show, he left to pursue opportunities in the United States. This risk, as with any actor no matter where they are from, did not guarantee him an automatic upgrade. Chris arrived in Los Angeles just like the thousands of other young people trying to make their way to California with similar dreams. He would be one of too many to count, tall, athletic Australian actors competing for the same roles. Chris had to audition, and audition, and audition, and none of these attempts converted into major success. There was even a point where Chris's visa and finances started to create real pressure on him. There was even a moment Chris might have been forced to return home. Hemsworth's first pivotal American film role was insignificant in the project, but would have major results for his career and opening industry doors. It was a small part in the 2009 Star Trek, directed by J.J. Abrams. Though brief, his performance as George Kirk, James T. Kirk's father, stole the scene. Casting directors noted his ability for emotional resonance through action. Chris had screen presence. But even then, it would take 2 more years before Chris would have his breakthrough into Hollywood. In 2011, he was cast as Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, beginning with the film Thor. At the time, he had no international fan base. Also, Chris may have held clout for his physicality, built up through a lifetime of sport and surfing, but this role required a full physical transformation alongside mythic gravitas and comedic restraint. It also required committing to a multi-film contract that would define the next decade of his career. The Marvel opportunity came with both elevation and constraint for Chris. It brought financial stability and global recognition, but it also risked typecasting him again as a singular archetype. Many actors face similar struggles to escape franchise identity, so Chris Hemsworth knew he had to navigate this carefully. He said yes to appearing as Thor in lead films, as well as in ensemble films such as The Avengers, but he balanced his work by also seeking roles that diversified his portfolio. He created a partnership all within himself, one side action star embodiment, and the other side dramatic, serious, to even hilarious. He starred in Rush in 2013, portraying Formula One driver James Hunt, a performance that earned critical respect. He appeared in Snow White and the Huntsman, and later in comedies such as Ghostbusters in 2016, where he leaned into self-parody and demonstrated comedic timing. The next pivotal collaboration occurred for Chris with Taika Waititi on Thor Ragnarok. By the time Ragnarok entered development, the Thor character risked stagnation. He was stuffy and almost boring in comparison with the quick-witted and quicker-footed Loki. Waititi imagined the tone in the franchise and in the character, injecting irreverence and humor. Hemsworth embraced this shift fully, allowing himself to play a looser, more self-aware version of the hero. The film revitalized the franchise and revealed a new dimension of his range. Interestingly enough, he wasn't happy with his later performance in Thor: Love and Thunder, saying that he felt he lost perspective of himself while having so much fun on set. It makes sense that Taika was there. Either way, this collaboration reinforced a regional connection. An Australian actor working under a New Zealand director within an American franchise. Both films used Australia as a landing pad. The Pacific Creative Network expanded outward into the world again. Beyond acting, Hemsworth began repositioning himself strategically by co-founding the production company Thematic Entertainment with Australian producers John Finemore and James Hopp of Maker Films and its US-based subsidiary Lost City, Inc. This mirrors a pattern seen in many actors who seek longevity. Ownership becomes essential for those who seek long-term legacy in their work. Actors simply cannot just participate in projects anymore, so it's imperative they seek control over their own narratives. He has also invested heavily in health and wellness ventures, launching the Center Fitness platform, which has been built on the collaborative efforts of a curated team of experts, while his face and name holds the brand. This move reflects an understanding of brand extension beyond film. It capitalizes on his public identity while creating diversified income streams. For creatives, sustainability often requires parallel infrastructures outside their initial wheelhouse. In 2020, he starred in Extraction on Netflix, an action thriller that became one of the platform's most watched original films. A sequel followed, reinforcing his viability outside the superhero framework. Its success demonstrated his ability to anchor a non-Marvel franchise, which led him to Mad Max. In 2024, Chris Hemsworth joined the Mad Max universe in Furiosa, directed by George Miller, connecting him directly to the cinematic lineage which came before he had even considered acting as a possibility. By this time in his career, Chris would be able to step into the expanded mythology as an internationally recognized star. Chris showed an understanding of partnership and collaborative work within his acting range, his acting career, his entrepreneur spirit, and even his personal life. It would be through his agency representation that he would meet his eventual partner and mother of his children, the individuals he now focuses his energy on. After learning about a genetic predisposition to Alzheimer's disease during filming for the documentary series Limitless, rather than accelerating output, Hemsworth would take this moment to instead choose to prioritize time with family and recalibrate career pacing. This decision reflects maturity often absent in fame narratives. Success for him was not merely accumulation. True success ultimately became an alignment with values, vision, and perspective. Many think that having a classical physical attractiveness paves the way to fame. But Chris Hemsworth was not an overnight discovery. He may have followed a traditional path with Australian television, but then he chose to pivot away into the wilderness with American auditions. He found visibility through franchise, but diversified strategically. He layered himself in ever-evolving projects and collaborations in his acting career, his entrepreneurship endeavors, and his own maturation. He is not at all what he seems face value. He is much more. He still had to hustle. He still had to network, partner, and ask for help from his circles. He still had to find balance within himself and his endeavors. He still had to realize his own limitations. And all of this allowed elevation in both professional and personal spheres for him. His story's biggest takeaway is that he did not become someone else when he left Australia, nor did he deny his core or his roots. Instead, he amplified and refined what was already present, from the natural physicality from his outdoor childhood to the strong work ethic from a grounded family to adaptability from moving environments. So while his external geography changed, Chris Hemsworth's internal understanding of self remained. Today, Chris Hemsworth continues balancing franchise work, independent projects, production development, and entrepreneurial ventures. He divides time between Australia and the United States, maintaining geographic connection to home while operating globally. Next week, we turn to Margot Robbie, another Australian television graduate who initially transitioned to Hollywood and navigated the Australian import label, but then ultimately founded Lucky Chap Entertainment to produce her own projects. Like Hemsworth, she began on local screens, crossed oceans, and moved from performer to producer. Their milestones are shared: migration, intentional reinvention, and ownership. Okay, y'all, it's time to put what we have learned into practice. Here's what I want to leave with you this week. Write it on a sticky note in your journals or somewhere you will see it. Chris Hemsworth's career required him to leave home physically while staying anchored internally. This week, consider how you might be waiting for a change of location to change who you are. But just as I'm learning with my own adventures, what if the environment is not meant to transform you, but to clarify and define you? Choose one aspect of yourself that feels consistent no matter where you go. Then ask how you can build your creative work around that stable core instead of trying to reinvent your personality every time your surroundings shift. To all my listeners, thank you for joining me today. I hope you continue in the pursuit of your projects and your dreams. Keep it up. Keep it creative. Follow your dreams when my dream's crazy. I was swimming alone with something under me. Follow your dreams, but dreams are hazy. Was there treading a pool where blue in the deep. Ooh. Follow your dreams, but my dream's crazy. I was flying atop rows of orchard trees. Follow your dreams, but dreams are hazy. Weighted low on the ground, grasping air to flee. Ooh. When the air is thick and the road is long, it's easy to forget how to sing your song. But dreaming can only get you so far. With dust in your eyes, not knowing where to start. dreams move through precision. Use that song in your heart for each intention. Follow your dreams, thoughts true, attempted. Your creation exists just beyond the template.